Lori Paranjape from Nashville, Tennessee is my next guest. Welcome, Lori. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Tell with me, first of all, about how you got into design, because it's an interesting story.
Well, I started as a TV news reporter a million years ago in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I met my husband, and we decided to start a family. So I left the TV business, and when I started, my kids got a little bit bigger. I started doing a little bit of work for myself and for my neighbors and for my friends, and it began to kind of snowball into becoming a business. And then at some point I kind of took it seriously and tightened up ship and became more professional with it, and have really grown my business for the past 12 years.
So you're self-taught then. This isn't something you learned. And the name of your firm and kind of your aesthetic.
So my firm is eponymous. So it's Mrs. Paranjape Design and Interiors. And we really focus on luxury new construction, large-scale remodels, and full home furnishings. We have a new classic aesthetic. It's a little bit of a fresh take on familiar. So it feels cleaner, but there's nothing so contemporary that it's not familiar to your eyes, and still has a comfort level for families to live inside of them.
From a consumer perspective, for whether it's your client or not, where do you suggest a consumer start to get to know their aesthetic?
Well, I think people naturally know who they are. They dress themselves every morning. They have a home that they live in that is representative of them. And what they ask me for when they come is, I'd like it to be tidier. I'd like it to be cleaner. I'd like more space to live in. And so we work from those things. But what they look like and the way that they live is so much more important to me than what they want it to look like, because we can always layer a little bit of pretty on top of a really functioning space for a family.
So, you know, they say opposites attract. So you say it depends upon what they look like. But when you have people who are opposites, they don't necessarily dress alike or look alike. So how do you bring that family aesthetic together in a home?
I think really my main job is to say, how do you live? How do you function? Do you have huge dinner parties? Do you love intimate just couples? We're always just family. We don't need huge entertaining spaces. Or we have 6 boys and they all play hockey, and we come in the house with all of that equipment. So we're designing the house for lifestyle, for living, for purpose and function. And the pretty part is what pleases the eye, but sits on top of all of that function.
You talk about that new traditional. Talk about looks coming forward that you're seeing, trends as some call it, but looks coming forward.
I think the idea of trends suggests that there's a short-term limit on something, and I think that there are such beautifully designed things all throughout history that we can pull from. My eye tends to like things that are a bit familiar but feel a little bit cleaner. So I think if we're pulling from things that we're aware of and we can kind of respect things, then we don't end up designing something that either doesn't work or feels a little unsettling in a space. I think a clean look that's reflective of history is the most beautiful to me.
Talk with us also about using something that you might have, but repurposing it, but also where you should spend your money as you're buying new pieces for your home.
I think when we get a chance to use things that a homeowner already has, but we use them in a new way, it is a really emotional experience for them to see it come to life again and have new life in their home in a way that they hadn't imagined. And whether it's just a gallery of their images, or it's their grandmother's chair, or it's a vintage rug that they bought on a trip and we've used it and repurposed it in a new way, it feels very familiar to them, but it still feels like they have a brand new space.
What do you do in your home to make it feel fresh on a regular basis so that consumers can have an idea of things they might do?
I never stop renovating my house. I have not stopped since I bought it. So we have a 1980s brick colonial. So it looks like it was in the 20s, it looks like it was in the 40s, it looks like it was in the 80s. So we have taken those really classic bones that I love and is very similar to the home I grew up in, and we've expanded a bit, and we've refreshed the bathrooms, and we expanded the kitchen so we can have open entertaining. But those really classic bones still exist in my house, and it kind of has that traditional foundation that I love so much.
What do you think is important in both a bathroom and a kitchen as you're renovating or building a new home?
I think, again, first thinking, how do I use it? We cook together. I cook alone. The whole family's in the kitchen. How does the kitchen need to work for us? That's A1. It's A1, A2, and A3 is the function of it. How will it work? And then kind of creating zones to support that and making sure that everybody has access to what they need without getting in the way of one another. I think that's the smart way to do a kitchen. And when we did our bathroom renovation, what was number one was how my husband and I get ready at the same time and how to stay out of each other's way in one bathroom. So again, function, function, function before form.
How about color? What's your favorite color and how do you use color in a home?
Oh, I always use color. There's always color there. My home, my island is bright green. I love pinks. There are pinks in my addition that I used, and there's always an infusion of color. It's definitely grounded in neutrals so we can invest in the things that don't change very often. And then there's a layer on top that just adds a little bit of punch and personality that I think is so important when you're finishing a space.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so what we've learned is neutrals, layer, pops of color. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.